So the film is actually about Afghan children today and how Afghan children see the war. So it's a story told through their eyes, and it's mainly focusing on the dreams and their fantasies, imagination, what is going to happen with them and with Afghanistan after the withdrawal of the American and the NATO troops. So it's basically we are showing the war in the first place, but in the context of the raw realism and the brutality of the war, we are diving into the world of the kids and we are telling their story actually. It's kind of a long story because I finished my studies in 2006 at a film school, and then in 2007 I went the first time to Afghanistan, but I was working mainly as a photographer, not as a filmmaker. Even I studied cinema, but I worked for a lot of humanitarian organizations in Afghanistan, and it was actually my will to go there, so I was not commissioned or hired by any NGOs. But I wanted to, in the first place, to explore Afghanistan because I read a lot about it, and I just wanted to know this country. But it's really difficult to, with the current circumstances, to travel around in Afghanistan. It's not at all a touristical country, so you need to be accompanied by someone or an organization who knows the country well. So my idea was to work for them for free, and as a return they would provide me logistics, transportation, translation. And little by little, by doing this work, I started to know Afghanistan. And I started actually to know all the subjects which are in the film now, which are the children who are surviving in a kind of a war economy. And also the war in itself, today I started to know really well. And it was actually after being 2 years in Afghanistan working as a photographer that I collected all the elements which are in the film, and then after 2 years I started writing the first draft of the script. And then from 2009, 2010 on we started with the first shoots, but little by little actually, until 2015. So it was a really long process, but the beginning came from 2007, 2008 while I was working as a photographer. In my first place to tell the idea of the kids, but I understood really well that for us as a Western viewer it's kind of complicated to understand first of all Afghanistan, but on the other hand also to understand the world of how those kids are surviving. So I needed to actually show the context of the war, because this is something that we in the West know very well because of the media, because of the images when Americans are fighting Taliban. It has been passed like several years on television, and then inside this context I wanted to go to the children. But later on it became much more obvious that the characters that we filmed with the Americans were really becoming like a kind of, not like an individual character, but like the army in itself became a character. And then the kids, a few kids, like the main character Ghulam Nasir was like the counterpart. So especially in the editing, you start working on those both parties, and we were mainly telling, I think what was the main message was the misunderstanding or the distance that both had from each other, not knowing the other one, and not knowing what their intentions are or what they were doing in Afghanistan, both from the Americans towards the kids or from the kids towards the Americans. And I think this contrast is something that we really wanted to work in detail on the film. Yeah, actually they never understood what we wanted to do. They never understood that even at the very end of the entire film shoot, they never understood that we were making a film. Because those kids, they are living far away from civilization. Most parts where we shot with the kids it's far away from Kabul, so there is no civilization, there is no electricity, there is no television, there is no communication. Everything has to be with satellite phone. I mean, we have satellite phones, but they don't have. So there is actually nothing. So when we arrived, for example, with a film camera, in the first place they thought it was like a rocket launcher. So they thought this is a weapon or something that was from the West and that we needed to, I don't know, to do something in Afghanistan. So for them it was actually, I mean, the parts that we staged with Ghulam Nasir, for example, for them it was like a game, you know, because my intention also was, even we were staging some parts in the film, that we were telling a reality in Afghanistan. I mean, nothing in the film is invented, but again, I wanted to hang on all the stories from other kids on Ghulam Nasir. So I needed to create like a lot of space around him, and in this space, he could be himself. He would navigate as Ghulam Nasir, who is himself in daily life, but I was projecting an idea on him, like, okay, Ghulam Nasir, you're gonna become the king of Afghanistan. So how is your life gonna look like? And he tried to imagine himself as the king, and that was how he worked, you know. So I think, you know, there have been many difficult moments. I think the film asked for a lot of sacrifices, like financially, socially, on the level of relationships with your girlfriend, with your family, whatever. But I think the most difficult part was maybe after 2013. 2013 was like the first big shooting block. We arrived with a big European crew, and after 1 week of shooting we got attacked by Taliban, and so everybody, there were a lot of injured people, all the equipment was destroyed, everybody needed to be evacuated back to home. And this was bad, but especially the time after that was really a dark period, because the production wanted to stop the film. I mean, not to stop, but they did not want to make the film anymore in the way that I wanted to do it. Like in Afghanistan, they said, okay, now it's time to look for solutions in Morocco, in Spain, or we're gonna stage everything, but we're not gonna shoot in Afghanistan anymore, or we're gonna fill up like every gap in the storyline which is not there with animation or something that I was completely not agree with. So I said, I don't want that. And the insurance also said, okay, we are not going to cover European people anymore.